it okay if I don't use the mic?
No, sir, it's recording.
Go ahead. So thank you, Raghu. I know I have little time. I'm not going to take more than 20 minutes, maybe, because I just spoke to Vishy and we decided that since Raghu spoke about this business model canvas and a lot of detail and all that, it will be difficult to switch from that to completely something new. So I'm simply going to introduce what I was supposed to say, and maybe Vishy and Jaya will organize a workshop around design thinking and all that. All right, so that's it. So let me introduce myself. My name is Shiva. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for Gopal Krishnan Deshpande Foundation. My background is I used to be a lawyer in the Madras High Court. I was practicing constitutional law and matrimonial law. So if you have any doubts on the Constitution of India, right? Matrimonial law, so anytime. Nobody asks me questions on matrimony. I don't know. Really, seriously. You should be asking. It's so important. Before you get into or after you have got into matrimony. Right? I used to practice for about 10 years. I was practicing in the Madras High Court. Very passionate about law. And then I joined TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. I was with TCS for about 20 years. In TCS, my job was to evangelize innovation and creativity. And now in IIT Madras, I teach creative thinking, and which is why the connection to design thinking. And I also am working with Raghu on taking ideas from the lab to the market, which is essentially what is the why GDC exists. So what I'm going to do, see, design thinking, I don't know whether it's possible for us to finish in 20 minutes. It's not possible. But I'm going to. Okay, how many of you sort of know design thinking already? Thank you so much. Now I can do whatever I want. No, anyway, so I didn't even look at you. So I'm just going to introduce it, okay? And I'm going to pick up one aspect of design thinking, and I'm going to try and connect it to the business model canvas. So when you go home today, you should be excited about learning design thinking, how it can be applied to creative thinking, and how it can be applied to business. Right? That's the objective. So I'm going to start with a video on design thinking. It's better to learn from the experts. So I need the video. Design thinking video. Just watch the video. You'll start to understand slowly what it is.
It's a 5-step process to come up with meaningful ideas that solve real problems for a particular group of people. The process is taught in top design and business schools around the world. It is brought.
Design thinking is a 5-step process to come up with meaningful ideas that solve real problems for a particular group of people. The process is taught in top design and business schools around the world. It has brought many businesses lots of happy customers and helped entrepreneurs from all around the world to solve problems with innovative new solutions. Step 1. Empathize. The purpose of Step 1 is to conduct interviews that give you an idea about what people really care about. We need to empathize with their situation. For example, if you want to help old people, you might find that they want to keep the ability to walk around. In your conversations, they might share with you different ways they can do that. Later into the interview, you'll want to dig a little deeper, look for personal stories or situations where things became difficult. Ideally, you redo the process with many people with the same problem. Step 2. Define the problem. Looking at the interviews, you can now understand the actual needs that people are trying to fulfill with certain activities. One way to do that is to underline the verbs or activities that the people mentioned when talking about their problems, like going for a walk, meeting old friends for tea, or simply going grocery shopping around the corner store. you might realize it's not so much about going out, but more about staying in touch. After your analysis, formulate a problem statement. Some elderly are afraid to be lonely. They want to stay connected. Step 3. Ideate. Now focus only on the problem statement and come up with ideas that solve the problem. The point is not to get a perfect idea, but rather to come up with many ideas, like unique virtual reality experiences, senior-friendly hoverboards, or a modified pushcart. Whatever it is, sketch up your best ideas and show them to the people you are trying to help, so you can get their feedback. Step 4. Prototype. Now take a moment to reflect on what you have learned from your conversations about the different ideas. Ask yourself, how does your idea fit in the context of people's actual lives? Your solution could be a combination of a new idea and what is already being used. Then connect the dots, sketch up your final solution, and go build a real prototype that's just good enough to be tested. Step 5. Test. Now test your prototype with actual users. Don't defend your idea in case people don't like it. The point is to learn what works and what didn't, so any feedback is great. Then go back to ideation or prototyping and apply your learning. Repeat the process until you have a prototype that works and solves the real problem. Now you are ready to change the world or open shop. To experience design thinking firsthand, do the free Virtual Design Thinking crash course from Stanford's D-School right now. You will learn to design a new gift-giving experience. Find the link and a guide for facilitators in the description below. After you are done, share your experience and gift idea in the comments. To learn more about creative and critical thinking, check out our other Sprouts videos. And if you want to support our channel, visit patreon.com/sprouts.
Now you'll notice this can't be done here the next 20 minutes. Can't be done. So what we really need to do is to sit down, take some materials, and think about each of them, define the problem, and then come to testing, which is what I requested Rishi to give us the opportunity to do. So that's what we'll do. So my only request is to look at design thinking as a process, important, and in that process become very good at each of these things, right? So what I'm going to do today is simply talk about empathy. And then, like I said, when you go home today, every one of you must lose sleep and say, how do I learn everything else? Empathy is something that we are teaching at IIT Madras. Empathy by definition, empathy is putting yourself in the shoes of the other person. Design thinking is a good way for an entrepreneur to start asking what he wants to do in the entrepreneurial world. Design thinking is a good way to start thinking about what is it that you want to sell, what is it that you want to make, what is it that you want to design, for which empathy could be a good point. Let me give you an example. We do something called, in IIT Madras, empathy walk, where we ask the students to walk around the campus, putting on their empathy hat. Empathy, by definition, is putting yourself in the shoes of the other person. Can you come here, please? Come. Literally, okay? This is important in empathy. Literally, take off the shoes, please. Take off the slippers, put my shoes on. Go there. Go, put my shoes on. Doesn't matter. You have to feel very good. This is important. I'm purposely doing this demo so that we don't forget, right? Go. Now, unfortunately, socks and slippers don't go well together, but it's exactly what it is. Jacob, right? How comfortable are you?
That's fine.
Huh? Tight, little. This is not at all comfortable, so we walk towards each other, right? So what are we doing? We're walking in each other's shoes. The problem with empathy is not walking in somebody else's shoes. The problem with empathy is taking off your own shoes and getting completely into the shoes of the other person. So in IIT Madras, when we did the empathy walk, about 40 students, we belonged to a particular group, we said engineers for research and all that, engineers for life we call them. They walked around the campus looking for ideas so that they could do some business in it. And then when they put on the empathy hat, they started to empathize around people in the campus. And one person, I can't forget his name, he's now at Stanford, he looked at the watchman standing. The watchman, if you empathize, the watchman is standing like this the whole day, right? Now if you get into the shoes of the watchman and you feel his pain, you start to understand that if you are a watchman, your knees start to ache. And if your knees start to ache, he goes back into his engineering mind and asks himself, what is the problem he's trying to solve, the second one. And he thinks about how can I help the watchman not have knee pain, while at the same time not letting him sit completely. And then he came to the third one, the ideate phase, where he said, we also teach ideate. I'd love to come and speak to you on ideating, how to generate new ideas and all that. So he combined the concept of, what is that thing that you place the camera on? Those tripod. He combined the concept of, combining a very important aspect of ideation. He combined the concept of a tripod and the empathetic feeling that he had for the watchman and came out with a stand like this, on which the watchman could rest his bum like that. So if you are a watchman, you are standing there, but then you take this, so you keep it there and then you put your bum on it, so your knees don't have to have pressure all day. And what happened, half an hour ago, he did not have an idea, half an hour hence, he had an idea, simply because he agreed to put on an empathetic hat. And that's the power of empathy in design thinking. Thank you. So now we start to understand, one of the things that we start to learn in empathy is how can we empathize with someone. And empathy apparently is something all of us have. I believe a 2-day-old child will start to weep if it listens to the cry of another 2-day-old child. It doesn't know why the other child is crying. It simply cries because the other child is crying. So empathy is a skill that all of us can learn. Now once we become experts in empathy, we can go on to the next one. I have a video for you. I have a video on about a product that came out of empathy. I want to show you that video. You see, my only quest is my only aspiration is to get you interested in this topic, and my aspiration also to help you link empathy to what Raghu was saying in the business model canvas. All right. So let's just watch the video and then Jane Chen.
Please close your eyes and open your hands. Now imagine what you could place in your hands. An apple, maybe your wallet. Now open your eyes. What about a life? What you see here is a premature baby. He looks like he's resting peacefully, but in fact he's struggling to stay alive because he can't regulate his own body temperature. This baby is so tiny he doesn't have enough fat on his body to stay warm. Sadly, 20 million babies like this are born every year around the world. 4 million of these babies die annually. But the bigger problem is that the ones who do survive grow up with severe long-term health problems. The reason is because in the first month of a baby's life, its only job is to grow. If it's battling hypothermia, its organs can't develop normally, resulting in a range of health problems from diabetes to heart disease to low IQ. Imagine, many of these problems could be prevented if these babies were just kept warm. That is the primary function of an incubator. But traditional incubators require electricity and cost up to $20,000, so you're not going to find them in rural areas of developing countries. As a result, parents resort to local solutions like tying hot water bottles around their babies' bodies or placing them under light bulbs like the ones you see here, methods that are both ineffective and unsafe. I've seen this firsthand over and over again. On one of my first trips to India, I met this young woman, Savita, who had just given birth to a tiny premature baby, Rani. She took her baby to the nearest village clinic, and the doctor advised her to take Rani to a city hospital so she could be placed in an incubator. But that hospital was over 4 hours away, and Savita didn't have the means to get there. So her baby died. Inspired by this story and dozens of other similar stories like this, my team and I realized what was needed was a local solution, something that could work without electricity, that was simple enough for a mother or a midwife to use, given that the majority of births still take place in the home. We needed something that was portable, something that could be sterilized and reused across multiple babies, and something ultra low cost compared to the $20,000 that an incubator in the US costs. So this is what we came up with. What you see here looks nothing like an incubator. It looks like a small sleeping bag for a baby. You can open it up completely. It's waterproof. There's no seams inside, so you can sterilize it very easily. But the magic is in this pouch of wax. This is a phase change material. It's a wax-like substance with a melting point of human body temperature, 37 degrees Celsius. You can melt this simply using hot water, and then when it melts, it's able to maintain one constant temperature for 4 to 6 hours at a time, after which you simply reheat the pouch. So you then place it into this little pocket back here, and it creates a warm microenvironment for the baby. Looks simple, but we've reiterated this dozens of times by going into the field to talk to doctors, moms, and clinicians to ensure that this really meets the needs of the local communities. We plan to launch this product in India in 2010, and the target price point will be $25, less than 0.1% of the cost of a traditional incubator. Over the next 5 years, we hope to save the lives of almost 1 million babies, but the longer-term social impact is a reduction in population growth. This seems counterintuitive, but turns out that as infant mortality is reduced, population sizes also decrease because parents don't need to anticipate that their babies are going to die. We hope that the Embrace Infant Warmer and other simple innovations like this represent a new trend for the future of technology. Simple, localized, affordable solutions that have the potential to make huge social impact. In designing this, we followed a few basic principles. We really try to understand the end user, in this case, people like Savita. We try to understand the root of the problem rather than being biased by what already exists. And then we thought of the most simple solution we could to address this problem. In doing this, I believe we can truly bring technology to the masses, and we can save millions of lives through the simple warmth of an embrace.
In any case, just to help us understand the process, go back to all those things, I'm going to take you through a presentation. And then once the presentation is over, I'll try and bring in the empathy factor into the business model canvas and leave you at that. That's the agenda. Time is 5:45. We should be finished by 6 o'clock, maximum 6:05. Just to give you an idea as to how long. Is that okay with all of you? Right? Charles, I do that. So I'm just going to take you to the presentation I had. So design thinking so Stanford D School started design thinking. I'll also introduce words that come through whenever you read about design thinking. IDEO is a product design company in the US. They are the pioneers in design thinking. IDEO, if you go to the IDEO website, you will actually be surprised. They want to recruit observers. They actually recruit observers because they have a 4-step process for product design. So if you are a person who wants to, let's say, manufacture toothbrushes, you go to IDEO and say, I want to manufacture toothbrush, and the IDEO guy will say, come back in 3 weeks. And then in the next 3 weeks, what they'll do is they will employ observers, and they'll ask observers to observe how children and adults use the toothbrush. The observers will make notes and come back and brainstorm. And then they will get to all sorts of thinking about how people use toothbrushes. And then after that, they will generate ideas on toothbrushes and they'll build a prototype and test it. They call the customer back and the customer will be given a set of 4 or 5 toothbrushes. You will choose one and they manufacture the toothbrush. That's IDEO's work. Which is why apparently the toothbrush has that corrugated surface in the middle. Apparently the observation was that babies who have very small fingers and hands, the toothbrush tends to slip out of their babies. Therefore, essentially, therefore, if you look at design thinking, there's one important word we remember. It's called. Okay, let me come. What is design? This is also theory stuff. I'm sorry. I need the chart. I need the full thing here. Okay, you got it. Yeah. So design is not aesthetic. Design is not an event. I'm just going to go through this. We can come back to this later on. Design is not an event. Design is not a product. Design is not an experience. Design is a process. And suddenly we are saying, what? Design is the process. And if you're an engineer, you'll understand what is right 1, 2, 3, 4. Step 1, 2, 3, 4. And suddenly we are saying, therefore, it's not something that will happen to you when you're walking to the canteen. Now, when you look at design as a process, that's the most important one. It's human-centered. So the whole process is built around the human. So when someone asks you next time what is design thinking, you say design thinking is human-centered, centered around the human. Alright? Now go back, this is an IDEO philosophy, okay? So don't argue with me, you don't argue with IDEO, can it be animal-centered, can it be tree-centered and all that. Right now we are learning it as human-centered. So therefore it's mindful of a process. These are all mindsets. So if you want to be a design thinker, then the mindsets that you have to adopt are that you have to be mindful that it's a process. You have to have the culture of prototyping. You have to show, not simply talk and talk and talk. You have to have a bias towards action. You have to say, that's why, I want to live that principle. I want to say, let's all do something together instead of simply learning design thinking as a theory. And you have to collaborate with each other. Okay? So, collaboration. Human-centered, test with actual users, observe for inspiration, define problem with empathy and insight, involve users in ideation. Culture of prototyping, iterate. It's very strange. There is one, what Raghu was explaining, business model canvas. Essentially, Steve Blank is one of the authors of the Lean Startup Method, and business model canvas is part of that. There are 3 people there. Osterwalder, who created the business model canvas, Steve Blank, who advocates to get out of the building and interview 100 customers, gather evidence for the hypothesis, and Eric Ries, who talks about minimum viable product, right? Now, when Steve Blank was asked what is the difference between design thinking and his methodology, he said design thinking, you come with the ideas, while in the business model canvas, you validate the ideas, right? That's the only difference, okay? So prototype early, bias towards action. I'm just taking you to the theory. Show, don't tell. Bias towards action again. Mindful of the process. Design process, come back to empathy, define, ideate, prototype, test. Empathy, define, ideate, prototype, test. Empathy, keep on iterating till you get something. So the D school, the Stanford school. So that's David Kelly, who introduced design thinking. He's written a lovely book called The Art of Innovation. There's a very nice video. I'm just giving you all these things so I can inspire you with design thinking. There's a very nice video on how it's a 4-day event that they have on building a shopping cart. So look for YouTube, how to building shopping cart IDEO, and then you'll start to understand the process. So the first day, the shopping cart is completely empty, and then they go, the people go there and stand in the shop and observe. See, observation is something that we may have missed out in our lives in order to create something new. So all these guys go and watch and they sit down in the shop, and there's this pregnant woman with a baby. So they say, can my shopping cart have a place for the baby? Then there is this person who doesn't have a limb. So can the shopping cart have something like that? And they go on and on and on. Ultimately, they create a shopping cart that you just have to go through the checkout counter, and all the things are counted, and they get a new shopping cart. watch out for the video on the shopping cart by IDEO, right? And then, so design thinking, design is for individuals, design thinking is for teams. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised about the next slide. Look at that. Straight out of design thinking. A product that's successful all over the world, straight out of empathy and design thinking. So suddenly you're starting to understand that we probably are missing a great opportunity in our lives by not doing something that we're very good at, which is empathy. And I think the invitation to all of us is next time we walk around the campus, next time we walk around the world, next time we walk in an airport, next time we are anywhere in the world, can we put on our empathy hat and look for opportunities? Can we look at the pain someone is going through or the gain someone is going through? So empathy is not only solving pain, but empathy is also increasing the gain. So if you go to an entertainment park and if you see people eating, you can also ask yourself, how can you enhance the experience of eating? And maybe there's a business around that. So empathy is not only about solving pain, empathy is also about increasing the gain of someone. Many times the mistake that we make about empathy is we think that we must solve the pain. I want to reiterate that there are not many products in this world which help to increase the gain that someone gets from something. And the other request to all of us again is design thinking can be used not only for product design, it can also be for process design, it can also be for service design. For instance, service design is something that's lacking in India. You can come to the IIT canteen one day to the mess, and if you are an entrepreneur who is raring to go, and you watch the way people eat food and pick up the food and all that, you will come out with some, at least 10, and if you empathize with the chap who's got to get food in 10 minutes, but he has to wait in a queue for about half an hour, you will have at least 10 ideas on how to improve the service in the canteen. You can come back, do your iteration, you define the problem, ideate, test, and go back to the dean, Shiva and say, I have this idea, can you pay me money for this? All I'm asking you is look at empathy as a powerful way to generate completely new ideas, not only in the context of product, but also in the context of process, and also in the context of service, and also in the context of cost reduction, and everything else that comes under the umbrella of innovation. Okay, that's design thinking. I hope I have been able to excite you about this brilliant new subject, not new subject, brilliant old subject, brilliant subject, whatever you call it. I'm not quickly, because of the lack of time, I'm not quickly going to start to make you interested in empathy in the business model canvas, right? What Raghu spoke about. Now, I have some document for you. Okay. Just pass it around. This is called, I need one. Sorry. I really want you to come back and ask Raghu and me for an appointment and say we want to learn from you. So can you pass it on, please? So that's called, everyone got it? Yeah, if someone doesn't have it, I'm sorry, it's Jaya's fault because she told me only 20 of you will come. Yeah. Rohita. Yeah. Charles. Okay, now look at this. Now it's called the value proposition canvas. Right? Value proposition canvas. Now I'm going to go to this, alright? Now what is the value proposition canvas? It's a tool to create value. It's a tool to create, Charles, I need to go to the presentation, please. So, yeah. See, I know I'm rushing through, but I don't want to go away without having completed the agenda with which I came. I wanted to explain empathy in the context of new ideas and empathy in the context of creating value. Yeah. Yeah? I'm going to rush through this, but forgive me when I come back. Both of us will come back and have a proper workshop. Now, your job is to ask yourself, what are we learning? You understand empathy. You have understood empathy in the context of creating new processes, services, products. Now, can we shift empathy from a new product point of view to what you already are? For instance, this one is for people who are already into business to ask yourself, how can you increase the value that you already are providing to your customers? Right? That's what we're talking about. So, value proposition canvas is, what is value proposition? What value do we deliver to the customer? Yesterday I saw a great video on value proposition. You know what to say? It's just a promise that you deliver. A value proposition is a promise. Which one of our customers' problems are we helping to solve? Which customer needs are we satisfying? I think Raghu spoke extensively on that. And what bundles and all that. Okay? I'm going to rush through as to why I'm doing all this. Okay? And then value proposition canvas helps you create value. Invent new propositions. Invent, which means what? You are 5-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old as an entrepreneur. You are starting to say that you can invent new propositions. And how? Improve. You already have a value. You can now improve that value. What are the skills you need? So you are an entrepreneur. You want to improve the value. What are the skills that you need? Do you have those skills? Entrepreneurial knowledge, yes you have, but you can increase it of course. Design thinking, you're learning. Customer empathy, you have the skill. Experimentation, you know what it is. Gathering evidence, hypothesis and all that. You need this if, look at this. You need this canvas if you are worried that there is too much focus on products and features instead of creating customer value. Again, Raghu said that about the features. You need this if you are surprised how often we make stuff that nobody wants. You need this if you are surprised that so much money is being spent on R&D and not enough on value proposition. What is value proposition canvas? It has two sides. Now look at your canvas. It has two sides. It has customer profile. Customer profile is on the right hand side, which has, yeah? No, what do you do? You have no empathy. Just joking, sorry. I know him very well, that's right. Customer profile, you have value map, and problem solution fit. Again, Raghu was talking about that. Problem solution fit is achieved when customer profile meets value map. When customer profile meets value map. Right? Now, value proposition canvas, customer profile. It has customer job. It asks the question, what is your customer? Have you understood your customer? What are his jobs? What does he do? Supposing you are manufacturing puja products. How many times does he do puja? Understanding the customer profile. Gains. Pains. And then you match it to the value map. What does the value map contain? Products and services that you're offering, gain creators, and pain relievers. Alright? And then when your pain relievers match with your pain that you have discovered about your customers, and your gain creators match with the gain that your customer you achieve, fit. So how do you use it? Use it to visualize what matters to customers, apply it as a scoreboard, value map. I'm just going to, alright? The characteristics of great value, focus on jobs, pains and gains, focus on unsatisfied, I think you said that, unmet need you said, right, at the beginning. Target few jobs, but do it extremely well. Okay. Now why did I show you? Why did I show you this? Because, Charles, I need you. I need you to go to the next one. So now you know, right? Now you take this and you write down, you can write down your customer segment here. It could be, let's say, in the business that I want to do, I am looking for some ideas on students. So I write down the student profile here. I write down the pain over here. I write down the gain. But the question is, how do you understand the pain? I'm going to ask you a question. Your customer is a student. You have written his profile over here. In the next column, you have to write down the gain of the student and the pain of the student. How will you do that? What will you use? Brilliant. You use empathy. And that's what we're learning. Therefore, empathy, going back to the tool of empathy, can be used for two things. One is to generate completely new ideas, and the other is to understand the pain and the gain of your customer. How do you do that? Look at this. I have something called an empathy map. So, an empathy map. Yeah. And how do you use the empathy map to understand what I'm saying, right? Are you all with me or not? Yes or no? What are we learning? Exactly, we're learning the what's that? The value proposition map. We're learning how to create value. We're learning how to understand the pain and the gain and the jobs of the customer. In order to understand the pain and the gain and the jobs of the customer, we are using empathy, and we're going to the empathy map. This empathy map will help us understand what is the empathy map. Tools helps in better understanding, devise a stronger business model, understand what a customer is truly willing to pay for. How to use the empathy map? Look at that. Come up with all the customer segments that you may want to serve. Choose 3 promising candidates and select one of your first profiling exercise. In my case, I could say my product is for students, teachers, and corporate houses, 3 of them. Give this customer a name. So my student's name, let's say, is Arvind. Then build a profile of the customer. Arvind gets up in the morning. Now, how do I know Arvind gets up in the morning at 6 o'clock? What do I use for it? What do I use? Empathy. Empathy and observation, right? And then, look at the power of empathy now. You can sit in your room and draw the empathy map. What does the customer see? What does the customer hear? What does the customer think and feel? What does the customer say and do? What is his pain? What is his gain? And this is, what does the customer hear? Who are his friends? Who really influences him? What do they really think and feel? I'm just rushing through, you must forgive me, but we'll come back. What does the customer say and do? Imagine what the customer might say. What is the customer's pain? What are his biggest frustrations? What obstacles stand between him and her? For me, personally, when I was doing the value proposition map, there's one question here. What makes your customer lose his sleep at night? If you can empathize with your customer and ask him what makes him lose his sleep at night, and match it to the customer pain that you have, then you have what is called, what Raghu said, a problem solution fit. But what happens, the beauty of this whole thing is, after you have done this, what have you really done? All of them are only hypotheses. You have sat down in an air-conditioned room and you have empathized with the customer and got down the pain and gain. But they're all hypotheses, they're all guesses. But then now what you do, you go back to the skill that we learned of design thinking, of experimentation. You construct experiments. Just like a professor in a lab constructs experiments to prove a hypothesis. Your hypothesis, this page will be full of hypotheses. And then you use this value map to go to the customer and say, excuse me sir, what is your age? How many times do you go to class? He is my customer profile stat, and I'm trying to find out with the questions, without asking leading questions, I'm trying to gather evidence from him to find out whether or not the pain that I have written down here matches the pain I'm hearing from him. If 100 people express the same pain, out of 100, 70 or 80 people express the same pain, then I have got what is called a pain killer. And if my product has a painkiller, I have a problem solution fit. So if you ask yourself what I really did now, what I really did was not anything magical. All I did today was the power of empathy in design and in understanding the customer. That's all. So when you're going back home today, You need to ask yourself, how can I learn more about empathy? Don't confuse yourself with the other things. That is something we'll do in the workshop. But for today, for half an hour, if you ask yourself, was your life useful in the last half an hour, you will have to ask yourself, how can I learn more about this brilliant skill called empathy, which I can use in order to look for new problems to solve, go back to the empathy walk that the students did in IIT Madras, and how can I use empathy to understand the pain and the gain and the profile of my customer. Once I understand the pain and the gain of the profile of the customer, if I'm already into business, how can I use that to increase the value? That's all. Right? So the power of empathy is all you need to think about till we meet again. Thank you. Yeah.
Just before you ask your question, see, the idea is really to, what Shiva covered was in a very different area, but essentially focusing on how you empathize and get the real needs and gains. And therefore, unless you do this and then build the problem solution and the business model, you are unlikely to be finding your sweet spot of a business, a scalable model. That's all we wanted to convey to people. Yeah. Questions, please.
No, go ahead and ask. Because
Anything else?
no, it's not about questions. It's about, see, none of us here, at least I am not an expert. So we just want to understand what is it that we can do more, all of us together, because all of us together want to build a great country, a great nation, a great world. Right? There is.
I think he has a thing.
Yeah.
Can you tell some process or framework for customer discovery currently you are following?
We are following a process for customer discovery.
Like kind of like how some business follows survey, some business follows like directly meeting the customer. So kind of.
Yeah. So, see, customer discovery model, that's what I think Raghu said, right? So, essentially, what we do an 8-week program, I'll tell them. See, we do what is called a 8-week program. Okay, what is your name? Ashok. So, what happens is, if you are a faculty in IIT Madras, you apply to this program. It's called the Incubate program. Okay? So, you come with an idea. That means you've already finished your empathy, design thinking and all that. You have ideated, you are in the idea stage. It's the third stage there. You have an idea. Let me give you a live example. One of the faculty said he came out with a device to help a pregnant woman who is about 6 months pregnant figure out whether the pain that she was having was false or not. He had been working in a lab for 10 years. One of the jobs that we have is to go to faculty and inspire them, saying, what is this? A great problem that you're solving. Why are you sitting in the lab? Why are you not taking it to the market? That's our vision. That's our vision. That's what helps us, come to office every day. So this professor, he had this. All right. So he came to us. He said he came to us with a team of 5. So you're starting to get the idea of the process. You have an idea. You come with a team of 5 people, and then he does we do a 3-day program where we teach them business model canvas. The BMC is called. And we teach them other stuff. So the business model canvas and other stuff and all that, we'll give you, if you want, we can share the syllabus with you. And then we help them go out of the building. It's called getting out of the building. So the process number 1 is BMC, which Raghu explained very well. And then you get out of the building. You get out of the building, Ashok. Actually get out of the building and meet 100 customers. You meet 100 customers. And every time you meet customers, you don't tell him about your product. And again, a part of the process. You don't tell him that you're manufacturing this machine to help people find out if it's false pain or not. You simply find out from the customer segment, in this case the gynecologist, that's what they thought their customer segments were. You're going to be surprised as to what happened later. So the gynecologist has asked several questions around pregnancy, how many people she sees a day, how many of them are false, how many of them are not false, how many mistakes has she made, how many patients does she see, all those questions are asked. Going back to the, he uses the empathy and all that, comes back with evidence from the customer. So at the end of 100 interviews, he starts to understand whether he has a business or not. Then he looks for the problem solution fit. If he doesn't have the problem solution fit, he says, I don't want to do this, I don't want to waste investors' money, I don't want to do any more experiments, I don't think there's a market for it. I had a great idea in the lab, but I now realize there is no market. So we are saving a lot of time, effort, etc. on the part of the investors to not do something. But if he thinks that he has a problem solution fit, he goes to the next stage, which is called the MVP. He builds a minimum viable product, goes back to interviewing, looks for how much they will pay, builds one feature and gets the feedback on that feature and finds out what is the value of the MVP and builds what is called an early evangelist. Early evangelists are people who believe in your product immediately. So collects about 10, 20, 30 early evangelists, then goes to the investor and says, I have interviewed 100 people, I know there's a problem solution fit, I know there's a problem market, what is that? Product market fit, thanks. Product market fit, and I have now the confidence that it will happen, the investors have. That's the process. Yes? But in this professor's case, what happened was, when he met 70 gynecologists, very strange, the gynecologist, yes, it's a great product, but in India, see, that's why the entrepreneurship context I spoke about as a skill becomes important. In India, pregnancy is a very, very delicate affair. When someone is pregnant, the whole family is emotional and so the doctor, I actually was part of an interview where these people were interviewing, and this entrepreneurial lead, he said the doctor says she's under tremendous pressure if she's a gynecologist in India because everybody wants her to make a successful delivery. And so when these people went and said, we got this machine which can help you predict delivery, you know what the gynecologist said? He said, I don't want this. Because I can't be relying on a machine when so many people are waiting for me to deliver a good job. I'll still rely on my hands. So it means I'll still put my hands on the abdomen of the woman, but I will use a machine as to validate my gut feeling whether this pain is false or not. So the process helps you understand whether the customer that you think is your customer is really your customer or not. And you have the liberty to fail. You have the liberty to fail because failure is something that we don't do very often in India. You have the liberty to fail and tell yourself, this is not my customer, somebody else. So in answer to your question, there are three definite processes: the business model canvas, getting out of the building, meeting customers, gathering evidence for your hypothesis that you have built on your business model canvas, and building an MVP.
Sir, how long it take to collect evidence? Sir? How long you give for
8 weeks.
10 weeks?
8 weeks. 8. Want to add, Raghu?
Yeah, see, the thing is, if you then find a problem solution fit, we actually celebrate. It's counterintuitive. In an incubator, you have to succeed. In an investment, here we say, if you didn't find, you actually succeeded. If you fail, you want to fail fast. Don't waste your time, don't waste people's time and money. So, in this case, maybe some gynecologists were willing to do it, some were not. You also understand what else it takes for the people who are succeeding. What is their profile? What is their archetype? What is the family influencing? Will the family become an influencer? Will the rich hospitals buy it, or will the single hospitals do it? So there is so much of evidence and knowledge that you gather, you would be surprised. And that is the customer discovery process. So there is empathy that he talked about earlier, which helps you leverage, and there is validation. This is the most underappreciated part of startups. Anywhere in the world, it's not an Indian phenomenon. This is the most underappreciated facet of incubation or startup businesses. And that is what we want to sensitize people to. that if this underbelly of startup ecosystem can be addressed, by a culture of getting customer discovery. And our country is a diverse country. It's not like the US where information is available, where everybody speaks English and you have white, black, whatever, and you kind of here every 100 kilometers the market changes. Even B2B, there are differences because ultimately people are made of B2B. Right? So customer discovery is very essential in India more than anywhere else.
And you learn a lot of skills. You learn, for instance, the entire team will learn interviewing skills. We'll learn build hypotheses. We'll learn to ask the right questions. We'll learn how to fail. We'll learn what will be the different customer segments. We'll learn how to listen. I did tell you, below, how do you empathize with someone? You have to learn how to listen. I have an entire 2-hour program on listening skills and how to listen very powerfully in order to empathize. It's easy to say empathize, but how do you empathize? Because there are people who may not be able to communicate very well. Can you just leave them away? So when someone can't communicate, instead of teaching you communication, can you learn listening? So these are the skills that are needed.
The question is on validation. So there are different facets of validation. First, your product validation, idea validation, before that, the product validation, then you have business model validation. So you were mentioning the point on first few customers are not, the proof of your product to be, market validated. Same goes for everything. So how do you actually get to a point where you are comfortable that this is a validation point and you can convince others, especially investors or your other key customers, that this has been validated?
I wish you could consider, construct a Gaussian curve and then say at 80%, 90% hypothesis, I disprove my null. That's one way to do it. But I think what you really do here is in a consumer product, where B2C typical, your number of points has to be much higher than in a B2B, where the markets are more homogeneous or consumer. I mean, that's a gut feel. If one oil refinery does something in a process change, very likely, there's somebody else. It's not a consumer, it's a technical area there. Okay? So the answer is it depends. Okay? But the principles are, first of all, you've got to define the archetype of customers very carefully. You have to ensure that you have not put apples and oranges in one customer segment, and that requires domain, that requires your understanding, your fine understanding of what consumer behavior is. I told you, idli and dosa are consumed in Delhi very differently from the way they are consumed in Chennai. Punjabis consume it very differently than they eat the sambar more than that's how it is. Why it is, I don't know, but that's how it is. And that distinction, is reflected in the way Sarvana Bhavan operates between the two cities. Maybe it's an after discovery, but that's how it works. So that's how they keep and grow. That's how they grow their silk. So therefore, a Nali silk sari is sold very differently in Chennai than it is sold in Southex in Delhi. If you're familiar with what I'm talking about. They're bought for very different reasons. And so therefore, when you validate, you have to be clear, have you defined, when you observed a certain set of customers and problems, you have to be clear, is your observation across customers of, is the archetype very well defined? If it is well, and the value proposition and what he showed, the empathy fit between what the customer hears, and if that is clear to you, it will become obvious to you when you see it. So the skill lies in how sharply you define it. Most people fall for features. That's where the fundamental problem is. You think that your features are your value proposition. If they are not, and therefore you stop looking at your customers. You're locked. You're become a prisoner of your technology and your product offerings. Get beyond features, understand the customer needs, and then you will start to see the segments and the subsegments. And then when you define the subsegments and make a match of the two, value proposition versus that, I think you'll solve the question for yourself.
And it's largely about gathering evidence.
Ultimately, it's evidence. I'm sorry, I didn't answer that. You have to have evidence. You can't go by opinions of people. What is evidence is, then you see what the pains are and you gauge whether that's a huge pain, whether it keeps him alive, awake at night, as what Shiva said. If you can get evidence of that, you know that these guys are dying for it. That's how you make that assessment. And you have to make that assessment of how large that market is. That's some science, that's some market research, and there's some that.
And you ask these questions to the customers. So what we do is we train our people to actually ask these questions. How long have you had this problem? Without doing what is called direct questions. How long have you had this problem? What do you do when you get these problems? What are the solutions you have had? Many times entrepreneurial effort is in finding out how customers are already solving it and then using that to build your solution, right? So the questions that you frame, in order to gather the evidence that you want, will give you the confidence that you are on the right path. So before you go to the market, you need to ask yourself, what are the things I want? Once, and then frame your questions around the evidence that you want, and come back and match the answers you have got to the evidence that you wanted. Just like a lawyer who wants to prove someone is guilty or not, right? Same thing, same process.
Okay, I have a question for you. In India, in B2B space, it's a really tough task to even break the ice with the potential customers. They are so much unapproachable and so cagey. So you have any tips on addressing?
Yeah, so see, for the first cohort, I think out of 7 teams, 3 met 100. For the second cohort, out of 10, right? 10, about 2 met above 100. So the question is directly related to that. How do you expect someone to meet 100 customers in a span of 7 weeks? So what we do is, of course, we also encourage them to write down the names of the customers. Then people like Vishy and all help us a lot by helping us with connecting us to alumni. So networking skills become important. Then we also, so one of the questions that you don't leave a customer, once I meet you as my customer, I ask you 2 basic questions. One question is, should I have asked you anything more? Second question is, can you please recommend me to somebody else? So you build your network like that. And of course, cold calling and all that, it's very tough, but I think those 8 weeks, you really live the life of an entrepreneur.
I'll answer it outside the program that we do. I think it's a tough call in a B2B. Chances are you will get kicked around. Okay, you not even get to meet. There was somebody who came and said our customers are municipal, they're doing solid waste management. So who are your customers? Municipal. How do you get an interview with anybody meaningful in a municipal corporation? It's like all government offices, if that's the entity that you want to be spelling to, are like a clock mechanism. There's so many wheels, it's all open, but you don't know which wheel is driving which wheel. You don't know how the damn procurement works, right? Let alone getting the appointments. Why do we insist on 100 interviews? There are 2 things. One, typically if you look at startups that have started generating revenues on a consistent basis, they have made 1,000 calls and more. In B2B situations, not B2C. B2C is much more. Order of magnitude, if you're lucky you could be less. I'm saying do 10% of that. That's a crude science of why we are saying 100. But I think it's also a question that if you can't get a meeting and get to know your customer, how do you sell? That's part of the entrepreneurial training. This is the hard work. And for all you know, there's not one guy. There is the CEO and there are 5 fellows, and maybe some back office purchase fellow is the key guy who's blocking your order. And he's not even on your radar. Unless you go and meet all these guys in the chain of procurement and payment, of course, you're not going to succeed as a startup. And I think that is what customer discovery is about. Customer discovery is who is your customer. You don't know who is your customer in a B2B so easily. You can't put your finger on it. It's very hard. I don't have an easy answer. You have to do any which way that you can get. Book a flight next to him. I've done that when I sold consulting. Between Bombay and Delhi, I booked a flight next to the guy. I got 2 hours. You have nothing better to do, right?
Alright, so
I think what I heard is that you don't go to a B2B customer first time when you want to sell your product. We're not saying that, but be prepared for the long haul. Sorry we over exceeded the time, but no, I'm sure that you all agree that, this was a much needed session, and both what Raghu covered in terms of, what is customer discovery, how he develops understanding, and also what Shiva covered with respect to what is the concept of, practice of design thinking, and how do you apply that to the customer development process. Extremely valuable. I learned a lot, even though I sat through some of the design thinking, the technique, the workshops and all in the past. Every time there is a new discovery for myself. So thank you, Raghu. Thank you, Shiva. And I think they will. I think they already committed to do the workshop.
Thank you everyone. Like Rishi sir said, Shiva has already committed to workshop on behalf of himself and Raghu sir. So we'll just get the dates from them and confirm to all our incubatees, and we hope to see you all there. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the audience. We are delighted to have been here. Thank you.